My story began with a vacuum cleaner and the smell of someone else's perfume in my hallway. My wife should have been home. Instead, I found a stranger, a polite, frightened woman who told me she sometimes helps out. That moment, that was the crack in the glass. I didn't yell. I didn't demand an explanation. I smiled, took my documents, and left. But from that moment on, I became a different person, a person with a plan. And my wife? She had no idea that her beautiful lies had already been exposed. What followed was a week of silence, fake smiles, hidden cameras, and one revelation that exposed the whole truth. This isn't just a story about cheating. It's a story about what you do when the person you trusted most decides that you're just another option, and about what happens when you decide you're not going to be polite anymore. Let's begin. It was a Thursday, around 11:15 in the morning. I remember because I'd just finished my second coffee and was halfway across town headed to a property showing when I realized I'd left the signed contracts for the Anderson project on my desk, back home. They needed those papers in hand for the 1 p.m. meeting. No chance I was going to risk emailing scans. This was one of those handshake deals where a paper signature still held weight. I cursed under my breath, made a U-turn, and drove back toward the house. My home is close to the office. Only a 30-minute drive if there is no traffic that on the way. I was already thinking about what excuse I'd use when I walked in and saw Kaylee in her robe, wrapped up in one of those true crime documentaries she devours like popcorn. But when I pulled into the driveway, things felt off. Her car wasn't there as usual. I stepped inside and instantly felt it, the absence. No scent of coconut vanilla candles. Kaylee burns them religiously, always has one lit in the entryway. No sound of screaming victims from her crime shows. Just a strange, mechanical hum I didn't recognize at first. That's when I turned the corner and saw her. A woman I had never seen in my life, vacuuming our hallway. She didn't look up right away. It wasn't until I stepped forward and cleared my throat that she nearly jumped out of her skin. "Oh, sorry, I didn't know anyone would be home," she stammered. I looked at her. She looked at me. For a few seconds, we both stood there like a couple of deer in headlights. I think I'm in the wrong house," I said, half joking, trying to break the tension. She gave me a nervous smile. "No, this is the right place. Kaylee said I could come by. I'm just the cleaning lady." I blinked. "Cleaning lady?" "Yes. She said she had errands today and asked me to tidy up a bit. I come by every now and then." "Every now and then." I nodded slowly. My mind was moving 100 miles an hour, but on the outside, I stayed calm. "Right. Sure," I said. "I just came by to grab some papers from the home office. Won't be in your way." She relaxed a little, nodded, and went back to vacuuming the hallway as I walked past her. Every now and then. I opened the office door and found my folder right where I'd left it, tucked beside my laptop. Normally, I'm the kind of guy who likes structure. Same parking spot at the office, same breakfast every morning. But that moment felt like stepping into someone else's life. There was something deeply off about it. Kaylee never once mentioned hiring help. Not once. In fact, I'd offered before, especially during the holidays when the house got overwhelming, and she always insisted she didn't need anyone. Said she preferred doing things her way. "Outsiders mess up my system," she told me once. So who was this woman? I didn't ask her name. Didn't interrogate her. That wasn't the time. I grabbed the folder, thanked her, and walked out the door like nothing happened. But inside, I wasn't okay. I got back in my cars. Let the AC hum as I stared at the steering wheel, trying to make sense of what had just happened. You don't want to jump to conclusions. You don't want to accuse your wife of anything crazy. You tell yourself there's probably a good explanation, something you're missing. But deep down, a voice in my gut, the one I've always trusted more than any spreadsheet or sales report, was whispering something different. Something isn't right. The documents were in my hand, but all I could think about was the vacuum, the quiet, and a stranger who knew her way around my hallway better than I was comfortable with. I didn't call Kaylee, didn't text her. I just drove back to work and tried to act normal for the rest of the day. But from that moment on, I started paying attention. That night when I got home from work, Kaylee was already in the kitchen stirring something in a pot like it was just another Thursday. Her hair was up in a lazy bun, and she had that same breezy attitude she always throws on when she wants things to feel normal. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't disappeared that morning and left a stranger in our home. She greeted me with a smile. "Hey babe, I hired a cleaner today, I hope." Apparently, the cleaning lady told her that I had come by at lunchtime, and Kaylee decided to act preemptively. I nodded, trying not to show how fast my pulse had picked up. "Cleaner?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Yeah," she said, too casually. I really needed a spa day. Like, badly. I had this tension in my shoulders, and I was just so behind on everything. I found her through one of those local Facebook groups. She had good reviews. That was the first real lie. We've lived in this house for nearly 9 years. Kaylee has never once suggested hiring help, even during holidays when the place looked like a wrapping paper bomb exploded. Every time I brought it up, she brushed it off, said she didn't want strangers touching her stuff. Now, apparently, she was fine with someone vacuuming her hallway while she disappeared off to a spa she didn't even bother to name. "Hope she did a good job," I replied, walking past her toward the fridge that I didn't tell her that I had come home at lunchtime and met the cleaning lady. I just kept quiet about it. But we both knew that I knew. I opened the door and stared inside like I was looking for a beer, but really I just needed a second to think. I didn't ask which spa, didn't ask what she had done. I didn't push. I just smiled through dinner, said the chicken was great, and pretended I wasn't dying inside. But that night, once she was in bed watching some documentary about a missing hiker, I went down to the garage and got to work. I've always been the kind of guy who likes gadgets. Not the high-tech kind with wires and codes and weird blinking lights. Just the practical stuff. Tools that make life easier. The house already had a basic security system, but I never used it for much more than the door alarm. Now, I was about to make it do a whole lot more. I installed a motion-activated camera just above the front door. Small, black, blends into the wood. Sends alerts right to my phone every time it picks up movement. I tested it with a flashlight, then again by walking out and back in. It worked perfectly. I told her I was doing a routine update on the system. She didn't ask for details. Over the next 7 days, I watched. She still did her usual morning stuff. Coffee on the back porch, scrolling through her phone. She'd kiss me goodbye when I left for work. Wish me a good day. Tell me to be safe. Sometimes, she was honest. One day, she said she was going to Target. I saw the footage. She left in her usual yoga pants and hoodie, came back with a few plastic bags. Fine. Another day, she said she was home all afternoon, feeling tired. But the footage showed her leaving the house at 12:42 p.m., wearing a low-cut top and one of those loose, flowy skirts she usually only wore to brunch or parties. She came back around 4, makeup touched up, hair blown out. She had a smoothie in her hand. She didn't bring any bags. Another time she said she was just out for a walk, but the motion camera showed her leaving in wedge heels. Who goes on a walk in wedge heels? She was lying. I knew it. I could feel it in my bones. But knowing and proving are two different things. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Every night, she sat next to me on the couch. Some nights, she laughed at a comedy show. Other nights, she scrolled through Instagram like her world was stress-free. But my mind was racing the entire time. The hardest part wasn't just the lying. It was watching her act like we were still the same. Like our life together was untouched. She had no idea. She had no idea that every time she walked out that door, I was keeping track. She had no idea that I stopped believing a word she said. And she definitely didn't know I'd already started making a quiet plan. Not for revenge exactly, but for the truth. I needed facts. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I needed to see it all before I decided what came next. So I waited. I smiled. I kissed her cheek in the morning. And I watched. Last Friday morning started with sunshine pouring through the kitchen windows and Kaylee humming to herself while scrambling eggs. She was already dressed, her hair done, and makeup on before I'd even had my second sip of coffee. That wasn't unheard of, but it was a little much for a trip to the gym. As I sat down at the table, she told me she had a busy day ahead. "I'm heading to the gym after breakfast," she said, flipping a piece of toast onto my plate. "Then I might stop by the outlets or Trader Joe's, depending on traffic. I probably won't have time to cook, so maybe you can pick up dinner from somewhere nice? I'll text you what I want when you're headed home." I nodded. "Sure, just let me know." She leaned down and kissed my forehead, which was something she only did when she was in an especially good mood or wanted me not to ask questions. I took my coffee to go, said goodbye, and drove around the block like normal. But instead of heading to the office, I kept going. About 10 minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of a rental car place on the edge of town. I'd reserved something bland, a gray mid-size sedan. Nothing flashy, nothing memorable. I didn't want her to spot my truck in the rear view. I drove back toward the neighborhood and parked 4 blocks away, just far enough to see the street, but close enough to follow her when she left. I waited. The morning passed slowly. I drank gas station coffee and kept my head down every time a dog walker passed by. I must have checked the camera app on my phone a dozen times, refreshing the feed from the front door camera. At 10:12 a.m., the alert came in. Motion detected. I opened the app. There she was, walking out the door, purse on her shoulder, keys in hand. But she wasn't wearing the black leggings and workout hoodie she had picked out earlier. Now it was jeans, heels, and a low-cut blouse I hadn't seen in a while, the kind of thing she used to wear on date nights, back when we still did those. I turned the ignition and waited until she pulled out of the driveway. Once she was a few houses down, I slid into traffic a few cars behind her. She headed north, toward the strip of gyms and fitness centers near the freeway. I followed her onto the access road and watched her pull into the parking lot of an upscale gym. It was one of those places with floor-to-ceiling windows, eucalyptus towels, and a smoothie bar in the lobby. She parked and walked inside like she belonged there. I kept my distance, parked at a gas station across the street, and watched the front doors. She came out in less than 10 minutes. No sweat, no towel, no change of clothes. Just her walking briskly back to her car, looking down at her phone. That was it. She hadn't worked out. She'd signed up, bought the membership, probably planning to wave it in my face later if I ever questioned where she'd been. She drove off again. This time, she didn't head toward the outlets or any store I recognized. She took the highway west, out past the industrial parks and the new developments, toward the edge of town. By now, my hands were sweating on the steering wheel. I turned down the radio and focused on staying 2 or 3 cars back. She took an exit that led into one of those semi-rural roads. 2 lanes, lots of trees, not much else. The kind of place you only go if you know exactly where you're going. After about 15 minutes, she turned into a long driveway I'd never noticed before, tucked behind some thick pines. I coasted past, glanced in the rearview mirror, and saw the house. It wasn't just any house. It was a mansion. Tall windows, stone siding, expensive landscaping. One of those sleek places with an automatic gate and modern lights lining the drive. I pulled over at the next bend in the road and got out of the car, walking back along the tree line. I stayed far enough back not to be seen, but close enough to watch. She parked, got out, fixed her hair in the side mirror, then walked to the front door like she'd done it 100 times before. A few seconds later, the door opened, and she went inside. No hesitation, no knock and wait, no second glance. I stayed behind the tree for a long time after that, just staring at the house like it would cough up answers. But it didn't. All it did was sit there, quiet and polished, surrounded by silence. I started watching. At 4:40 p.m., I called her. I said I was at the restaurant and asked about the order. She answered. Then I watched her quickly run out of the house, get in her car, and drive home. I followed her. She entered through the front door again, looking calm, collected, like she hadn't been in a rush just an hour earlier. I gave it about 10 minutes before I headed back home. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was already parked, front-facing like always. Lights on in the kitchen. Porch light already set to warm glow, like she was trying to set the mood for a quiet night in. I walked in and found her standing by the hallway mirror, smoothing out her hair with her fingers. Her makeup had been redone, eyeliner sharp, lips touched up with that soft coral shade she only wears when she wants to look done without looking obvious. She turned to me with a smile. "Hey you, long day, huh?" "Yeah," I said, setting my keys on the counter. "Let's go out for dinner." My treat. I decided that it would be better to spend time at a restaurant than to bring something. She blinked like she didn't expect that. "Oh, yeah, sure. That sounds great. Let me grab my purse." I needed to see her, watch her face, hear what she'd say about the day. So we went to a quiet place near downtown, somewhere we used to go back when things were simpler. Not too busy, not too loud. We got seated in a booth near the window. She opened the menu like nothing was out of the ordinary, asked if we should get an appetizer, started chatting about the decor like she hadn't spent the afternoon lying to my face. I waited until the waitress brought our drinks before I asked, "So how was the gym?" She took a sip of her iced tea and smiled. "Good. I did like 90 minutes. Tried out a new machine. My arms are going to be sore tomorrow." I raised an eyebrow. 90 minutes? That's a good session. "Yeah," she said. "I needed it." She reached into her purse and pulled out a tiny black velvet box, then popped it open and held it up for me. Inside was a thin silver band with a small sapphire stone, elegant, dainty, not her usual style. I bought myself something. Just a little reward for sticking to my goals, she said. Nice, I said, keeping my voice level. Where'd you get it? Oh, that little boutique next to Seasons Market. You know, the one with the crystals and candles? I stopped in there after shopping and saw it in the display case. I nodded slowly. I'd driven past that store 100 times. I could count on one hand how many times she'd even mentioned it. She once called it weird and overpriced. Didn't realize you liked that place. She laughed. Well, people change. Her smile was too wide, her eyes too steady. The light sat on her face like it had lived there a while. I could see the effort behind it, like she was overcompensating, laying it on just thick enough to push doubt aside. I leaned back in the booth, took a sip of water, and didn't say anything for a full minute. She filled the silence with talk about the gym, traffic jams, and a podcast she said she listened to in her car. She showed me the membership she had purchased and a page she had torn out. But inside, I'd stopped pretending. It was all a performance. The gym visit that never happened. The ring that wasn't from the store she claimed. The sudden mood lift, the effort in her appearance, the fake spontaneity of her evening. None of it added up. None of it rang true. I didn't argue. I didn't call her out. I just smiled, ate my food, and let her talk. Because now I wasn't just watching, I was waiting. After that dinner, I couldn't shake the image of Kaylee lying straight to my face across a plate of chicken and mashed potatoes. Her voice had that practiced cheerfulness to it, the kind of tone you use when you're trying to make things sound casual, like it's just another day, another errand. But behind her smile, I saw a wall. And behind that wall, something ugly was hiding. I didn't want to keep guessing anymore. Watching camera alerts and following her around like I was in a bad movie wasn't cutting it. I needed answers. Real ones. So I made a call. Jason and I went to college together. We were in the same business ethics class, believe it or not. He went into private investigations a few years back, mostly corporate stuff, tracking down fraud, background checks, that sort of thing. He owed me a favor. Long story short, I bailed him out of a mess with a professor and a final exam he never took, but got credit for. He never forgot it. When he picked up, I got straight to the point. I think Kaylee's hiding something. I need someone to follow her. Quietly. Just for a week. He didn't ask 100 questions. Just said, where do I start? I gave him her schedule, told him what I knew, and where she'd gone the last time I followed her. I sent him the address of that mansion on the edge of town, the one tucked behind the trees like it didn't want to be found. Jason said he'd be discreet, blend in, keep a distance. He was good at that. I trusted him. For the next 7 days, I went about life like normal. I went to work. I came home. I ate what Kaylee cooked and nodded at her stories. I even let her pick the movie on Saturday night. She laughed, she scrolled through her phone, she talked about the price of eggs like nothing was out of the ordinary. But inside, I was waiting for Jason's updates. He called every couple days. Nothing rushed, nothing dramatic, just the facts. She went back to the house, he said on Wednesday. Same routine. Parked in front. No one came out. She knocked. She was inside for a while. Came out alone. Friday he called again. She went back today. Same car. Same time of day. Same entrance. No guests. No signs of any social event. Just her and whoever's on the other side of that door. That was all I needed. There was no spa, no shopping trip, no friends from book club, no family emergency, no lost dog, no church charity meeting, nothing innocent. She was going to that place with purpose. And whoever she was visiting, she wasn't trying to hide it, because she didn't think anyone was watching. Jason's last suggestion came late Friday night. We met in my garage over beers like we used to when we were younger. I showed him the footage from the front door camera and told him how I followed her once. You want to really know what's going on? He said, setting down his bottle. Get a drone. I gave him a look. No, seriously. Quiet one. High res. Long flight time. You fly it in close, maybe above the backyard. You'll see more than I can. That house is too private. Fenced all around. You'll never see anything from the road. That night, I started researching. Next morning, I drove out to a hobby store an hour away and dropped a chunk of change on a sleek, gray drone with silent rotors and a camera that could pick up the numbers on a mailbox from 100 yards. The guy behind the counter showed me how to pair it with my phone, how to control the tilt, how to record. I tested it in an empty park that afternoon. Once I got the hang of it, it was like second nature. I spent Sunday evening watching YouTube tutorials and mapping out flight paths over satellite images of that mansion's property. I marked tree cover, rooftop angles, where the back patio was. I studied it like a blueprint. By Monday, I was ready. All I needed was for her to go back. And I knew she would. Kaylee didn't know I had a drone. She didn't know I had someone following her. She didn't know I was done trusting her words. I wasn't waiting for an explanation anymore. I was going to see it with my own eyes. At exactly noon on Wednesday, my phone rang. It was Jason. "She's there again," he said without wasting time. "Just pulled in 5 minutes ago. Same car. Same spot. No hesitation." I didn't say much. Just got it and hung up. The drone was already in the back of my truck. I'd kept everything packed and charged since the weekend, hoping I'd get the call. The closer I got, the harder my heart pounded. My hands were steady on the wheel, but there was a slow burn in my chest that wouldn't go away. I parked about a quarter mile from the house, on a dead-end road I'd scoped out earlier. Trees shielded the area pretty well, and from that angle, I could get a clear view of the mansion's backyard once the drone was up. I set everything up in the passenger seat. The controller synced without issue, and the live feed came through clear. I put the drone in the air, guiding it up through the canopy until I cleared the treetops. There it was, the house. Same dark stone exterior, tall windows, and curved driveway. But this time, I wasn't looking at the front door. I flew the drone around the side, keeping the speed low and steady, careful not to buzz too loud or dip too low. The backyard opened up like something out of a travel magazine. Long rectangular pool, clear as glass, surrounded by white lounge chairs. A bar built into the far side of the patio with a few bottles and glasses set out. A couple towels were draped across chairs. And then I saw them. Kaylee was there. She was wearing a red bikini I'd never seen before. Her hair was up in that twisted knot she always used when she was trying to look effortlessly pretty. She was standing in the shallow end of the pool with her arms around a tall guy. He had a man bun, tattoos down both arms, and was wearing swim trunks. He had one arm around her waist, holding her close, while the other hand held a drink. She was laughing, head tilted back, like she didn't have a care in the world. Another girl walked over, blonde, tan, in a white bikini, and tilted a bottle into Kaylee's mouth. She didn't hesitate, just leaned back and let it pour in, while Tattoo Guy held her steady from behind. Off to the side, two other guys were sitting on lounge chairs, shirtless, laughing and watching like it was all just entertainment. Another brunette in a green bikini strutted by with a cocktail in each hand and handed one to Tattoo Guy. He barely acknowledged her. His focus was still on Kaylee. I zoomed the drone in, careful not to bring it too close. The camera caught every angle, faces, bodies, the smirks, the touching. The way Kaylee moved around him like she belonged there. Not awkward. Not nervous. Just comfortable. Like this had happened before. I recorded all of it. The 1080p feed was clean, steady. Every second was being saved straight to my phone and a backup card in the controller. She was all over him. And he wasn't stopping her. After a few more minutes, Kaylee climbed out of the pool, dripping wet, laughing with the blonde girl. She grabbed a towel, wrapped it around her waist, and headed toward the bar. Tattoo Guy followed right behind her, brushing his hand across her back as he passed. It was like watching a bad dream come to life. I lost track of how long I hovered there. Probably too long. One of the guys lounging on the chair looked up, squinting toward the sky. He pointed. The others looked, too. One of them stood up and waved his arms at the drone, motioning for it to leave. Another one picked up a foam ring float and flung it into the air like a frisbee. I backed the drone off fast, climbed altitude, and looped it back around the trees until I was out of sight. The buzzing died down as I lowered it gently into the grass beside my truck. I sat there for a minute with the controller in my lap, listening to my own heartbeat and the hum of distant cicadas. I didn't feel anger right then. Not yet. I felt something colder. A sort of empty confirmation. The final piece. The proof. She wasn't out there with girlfriends, sipping drinks and having harmless fun. She was wrapped around some guy's waist while another woman poured liquor into her mouth. And she'd be home by dinner like nothing had happened. I packed the drone. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I needed backup, not to talk me down, not for advice. I needed presence. I needed people who knew me before all this. So I called my boys. Brendan was the first. We've been tight since 3rd grade. He runs a tire shop now. Honest guy, big arms, straight shooter. He didn't ask why I wanted to meet. Just said, where? Then Jaeger came over from Ukraine with his folks in middle school. Tough as nails, quiet as a stone unless you hand him a beer. He works in construction now, mostly framing and siding. Loyal to the bone. Todd was next. Shortest of the crew, but sharp as hell. Works IT now. Skinny guy, always joked that he looked like the friendly delivery driver no one suspects. That's exactly why I needed him. Finally, Bill. Big, round, and the funniest guy you'll ever meet. Works warehouse logistics but swears he missed his calling as a stand-up comic. Behind all the laughs, though, he's got a spine of steel. We met an hour later at a gas station near the mansion. Everyone wore hoodies like I asked. Neutral colors. Nothing flashy. I laid it out plain. No weapons, no real damage. We're not there to fight. We're there to send a message. Just follow my lead, I told them. They didn't need convincing. We parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest. Todd carried a brown cardboard box under one arm. He looked the part, innocent, nervous, like some new guy delivering a package to a rich guy's estate. He rang the doorbell. A camera above the porch clicked and followed him. After a few seconds, a voice came through the speaker. Who is it? Package for Adam, Todd said, using the name we saw on the mailbox. I just need a signature. More silence. Then the door opened. Tattoo guy stood there barefoot, shirtless, and blinking like he just woke up from a nap in the sun. Who? That's when we moved. I jumped out from behind a high fence and pushed him hard with both hands. He stumbled backward, lost his balance, and hit the floor like a sack of bricks. We rushed in. Brendan closed the door behind us, fast and quiet. Jaeger stood over him while Todd dropped the box and stepped aside. Bill peeled off to the right, hands in his hoodie pocket, scanning the room. I walked straight through the open space and into the backyard. There she was. Kaylee, my wife, wearing the same red bikini from the drone footage. Cocktail in one hand, phone in the other. Standing near the pool, laughing at something the blonde girl next to her had said. The laughter stopped the second she saw me. Glass slipped from her hand and hit the concrete, but didn't break. Her face turned pale. I walked over to the patio bar and swept my arm across the counter. Bottles crashed. Glass shattered. Liquor soaked into the wood and spilled down onto the tiles. You're a lying piece of plastic trash, I shouted. Everything went still. Kaylee dropped to her knees like her legs gave out. Stephen, she gasped. Stephen, please. It's not what you think. I stepped toward her. Shut up. The guy with the man bun had followed me out, now standing a few steps behind. I turned and pointed at him. Say one word, and you'll regret it. He didn't say anything. One of the other girls started crying. The blonde one grabbed a towel and tried to wrap it around herself like that would change what she'd been doing. Bill came out next, arms folded. Brendan was behind him, holding the front door open just in case we needed to make a fast exit. Jaeger stood in the foyer, still staring at Tattoo Guy like he was daring him to move. Kaylee reached for my ankle. Stephen, please, she whispered. I can explain. I messed up. I didn't mean for this. I pulled my leg away from her hand. You don't talk. You listen. This is done. You're done. She started crying harder. The ugly kind. Mascara down her face. That awful gasping sound like she couldn't breathe. But I didn't care. I looked at everyone once more, quiet, embarrassed, frozen. Then I turned and walked out. My boys followed. Todd was the last one out. He didn't say a word, just flipped his hood up and kept walking. We didn't say much in the car. Drove straight to a strip club across town. Ordered rounds of bourbon. Let the lights blur everything. I didn't even look at my phone the rest of the night. That mess back at the house? Let her deal with it. I was done playing dumb. When I finally got back home, it was close to 2 in the morning. I'd sobered up enough to drive and didn't feel like waking up on anyone's couch or smelling like cigars and whiskey in the morning. I just wanted to be alone. The house was dark. Porch light was off, even though I always leave it on when I'm out. Inside, I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator and not much else. I turned the corner into the living room and saw her. Kaylee was sitting on the edge of the couch, still in the same clothes from the mansion. Her bikini was gone, replaced by an old hoodie and sweatpants, probably whatever she found in her gym bag. Her makeup was smudged and her hair had fallen out of that fancy knot. She looked like someone who had been crying for hours. And judging by her red eyes and the tissue pile on the coffee table, she had. I didn't say anything right away. Just walked in, grabbed a glass from the cabinet, and poured some water. She finally looked up at me. Stephen, please, can we talk? No, I said. Not tonight. You need to leave. Go to your parents. Stay at a hotel. I don't care. But you're not staying here. She blinked, stunned, like she hadn't expected that. Please, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was stupid. I didn't think you. Stop. I cut her off. You're not going to explain your way out of this. I walked upstairs without another word. Took a shower. The next morning, I came down early. She was still there, curled up on the couch like she thought staying would change something. I didn't bother making coffee. You have until 6 o'clock, I said. To be gone. She sat up slowly. Stephen, please, just talk to me. You'll hand over your house key, your debit card, your credit cards. All of them. They're canceled either way. She opened her mouth, then shut it. I pulled open a drawer and grabbed the folder. It was a plain black file with a flash drive tucked into a plastic sleeve. I set it on the table in front of her. What's this? She asked, even though I'm sure she already knew. Everything, I said. Footage from the drone. Reports from the PI. Camera timestamps. GPS logs. All of it. She looked down, tears rolling again. I leaned on the table. One word to anyone about me being unstable or controlling or anything like that. This goes out. To your mom. To your group text. To your manicurist. Anyone who thinks you're a victim will know the truth. She didn't argue. She just nodded. And another thing, I said, pointing to the floor. This house? It's mine. Title's in my name, but at 2 years before we even met. You're not entitled to a thing. She covered her face and sobbed. I didn't mean to lose everything, she mumbled. You didn't mean to get caught, I replied. Around lunchtime, she went upstairs and started packing. I stayed in the garage, organizing tools I didn't need to organize just to keep my hands busy. When she came down with 2 suitcases and a duffel bag, she didn't say a word. Just handed me her house key and walked to her car. I watched through the blinds as she pulled out of the driveway. She didn't look back. That night, I sat on the back porch with a beer. It felt quiet. Too quiet, in a way I hadn't experienced since she first moved in. But it also felt honest. Like the house had finally exhaled. She's been texting me since. Some days it's apologies. I made a mistake. I miss you. Please just talk to me. Other days it's all guilt trips and emotional swings, blaming me, blaming herself, blaming stress, boredom, her friends. Sometimes I don't reply at all. Other times I do, but only if I feel like letting off steam. She said once that she still wears her ring because she's not ready to let go. I didn't answer that one. I've already met with a lawyer. The paperwork's being drawn up. We're not dragging this out. No settlements, no property split. She's walking away with her clothes and whatever furniture she brought into the place, which wasn't much. I haven't told my parents yet. I haven't told many people, to be honest. Part of me doesn't want the pity. The other part knows that once I say it out loud, it's permanent. But in my gut, I know it already is. There's no going back. She chose this. She built it. I just finally saw it for what it was. Share your thoughts in the comments. Was confronting her like that at the mansion the right move, or should I have handled it privately? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.